Weather portion of Ag Week now. It's close enough into the spring planting season to start talking about soil conditions with a little more earnest. And we do have the drought monitor to begin with. There are some areas of North Dakota, a few spots in northwest Minnesota on the light side of dry to moderate drought conditions. Of course, the drought does continue in California, especially Southern California, which just has not gotten enough rain. A lot of this that you see down here in southeast Texas and Louisiana by next week's chart will be erased because of the torrential rain that's been falling down there this week. It is quite wet. Soil conditions, different from the drought monitor. Soil conditions do indicate Pacific Northwest is very wet, but we don't grow a lot there other than grass seed. California, especially Southern California, is still dry. Although the reservoirs have some water in them, it's just been too much drought the last few years for that to be helped out. The Middle West, a lot of it anyway, and the Deep South have gotten quite wet with the stormy weather over the last few weeks, but there do remain a fairly large area across the western high plains there where the soils are just quite dry and definitely are going to need some rejuvenation before we get into planting season. We may get some help from that this week. Of course, the very heavy rain system in the southern plains, that's going to move northward the next day or two and begin to dissipate. The very mild weather in the northern plains across the Dakotas and Minnesota over the weekend, that will gradually be shifted southeastward as the polar jet stream begins to go a little further south. And that's going to let colder weather drop into the northern plains, but there may yet be one more weather system coming up, this time along the polar jet, which might bring it further north, meaning it's quite possible some parts of the Dakotas and Minnesota will be in line for some at least moderate rain and snow as we get toward the middle to end of this week. Meanwhile, the colder weather will come in. It won't be Arctic cold, but it'll be a lot colder than the weather has been over the first half of March, at least across the northern plains. Let's take a look at the forecasts. First of all, this week, California gets another surge of moisture. The southern plains get another stormy system across the south. That'll move up into the lower sections of the Midwest. And I think at least moderate rain and snow in the Great Lakes. And some of that will come back into the northern plains. Not exactly sure where, but some moisture is likely. The west and north of our region will remain dry and very likely quite cold as well. The second week looks stormy down in the southern plains and the west coast north of San Francisco. It doesn't look like much going on other than just generally cool in the northern plains for that second week. Now, last week I talked about the summer segueing on the heels of El Nino into it being warm and dry. That's going to change if we start getting moisture up here in the northern plains. The heat will end up going west. Temperatures will return to average. And once it starts raining, it's a little more likely to keep raining through the summer.